On the banks of the Shipra River, in the ancient magnificent city of Ujjain, lived a vivacious young girl, Leelavati, offspring of Bhaskaracharya, the illustrious mathematician and astronomer. Her horoscope had prophesied that Leelavati may never experience marital bliss. The determined father used his knowledge of astrology to calculate a single auspicious time when Leelavati's marriage ceremony could be performed. On the day of the marriage, Leelavati was standing beside the hourglass meant to keep time, and a tiny bead from her necklace unwittingly fell into the hourglass, and the auspicious moment passed by without notice. The popular story behind the ancient mathematical treatise Leelavati was written by the 12th century mathematician of India, Bhaskaracharya, in order to keep his daughter's memory alive. As India is the land of epics, myths and folklores, the story of Leelavati is also probably one of half-truths and historical facts. The book Leelavati, however, as a brilliantly unique work on mathematics, is a reality. So is Bhaskaracharya, one of the towering figures in the long mathematical tradition of India. By the middle of the 3rd century BCE, there is clear evidence for the written representation of numbers in the form of Brahmi numerals, some of the earliest attempts of representing numbers with unique symbols. By 500 CE, we have the beginning of what is known as the classical age of Indian mathematics, an era of great surges in mathematics and in astronomy. Aryabhata, Varaha Mihira, Brahmagupta, Bhaskara, Lala, Govindaswamy, Mahavira, Shankara and Sridhara are a few of the brilliant minds who contributed to the growth of mathematics in India. Bhaskaracharya was a worthy successor to this great lineage. The birth date of Bhaskaracharya can be deciphered from the following verse that appears in his text, Siddhanta Shiromani.
I was born in the Saka era 1036 and I wrote Siddhanta Shiromani in Saka 1072 at the age of 36.
An inscription in stone found in the ancient Bhavani temple of the Patan village in Maharashtra offers an important pointer to Bhaskaracharya's paternal ancestry. The inscription, which archaeologists have dated as being from 1207 CE, was made at the behest of Kangadeva, the grandson of Bhaskaracharya.
I am Changadeva, the chief astrologer to King Simghana and the son of Lakshmidhara, who by King Jaitrapala was appointed as the court Pandit. My father was the son of Bhaskara, the astronomer. My grandfather was born to the great poet Maheshwaracharya. He was the son of Manoratha, who was born to Prabhakara. His father was Govinda Sarvajna. Govinda was born to Bhaskara Bhatta. Bhaskara Bhatta's father was the renowned poet Trivikrama.
Bhaskaracharya's compilations of mathematical ideas are presented in his 3 great works, the Leelavati, Bijaganita and the Siddhanta Shiromani, and in his own commentary in Vasana Bhashya. Leelavati is a text where a large number of mathematical ideas and algorithms are presented in the form of engaging puzzles.
Leelavati, compared to other texts, is unique because of its high poetic value. It's not that we didn't have texts which deal with the topics which are being dealt with in Leelavati in other works. But what is so special, as Bhaskaracharya promises right at the beginning of the text, as well as concludes with the same theme towards the end of the text, is Lalitya Leelavati. See, he says, Sankshiptakshara Komala, Sankshiptakshara, Komala, 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 Komala So all that Bhaskara seems to have done in this text is, apart from certain mathematical aspects which have been improvised, he has presented it in such a charming way, and that's why I would say the text Leelavati is a very meaningful name.
The text Leelavati is filled with examples where mathematics is brought to life through varied and rich metaphors and scenes from everyday life.
हारस्तारस्तरुण्यानिधुवनकलहे मौक्तिकानां विशीर्णो भूमौ यातस्त्रिभागशयनतलगतः पञ्चमांशोऽस्य दृष्टः प्राप्तः षष्ठः सुकेश्यागणकदशमकः सङ्गृहीतः प्रियेण दृष्टं षट्कं च सूत्रे कथय कतिपयैर्मौक्तिकैरेष हारः.
An interesting problem again to deal with these unknown quantities in connection with the bees which are flying from here and there, from one tree to other tree. He conceives of a certain beehive. So from the beehive he says,
पञ्चांशोऽलिकुलात् कदम्बमगमस्त्र्यंशं शिलीन्द्रं तयो विश्लेषस्त्रिगुणो मृगाक्षिकुटजं दोलायमानोपरः कान्ते केतकमालती परिमलप्राप्तैककालप्रियादूताहूत इतस्ततो प्रभतिके भृङ्गोळिसङ्ख्यां वद.
The geometric principles on right-angled triangles and the measurements of their sides were known to Bhaskaracharya. In a captivating example, Bhaskaracharya creates a scene that engages the reader with the basics of right-angle geometry.
अस्ति स्तम्भतले बिलं तदुपरि क्रीडाशिखण्डी स्थिता स्तम्भे हस्तनवोच्छ्रिते त्रिगुणितस्तम्भप्रमाणान्तरे दृष्ट्वा हिङ्बिलमाव्रजन्तमपतत्तिर्यक्सतस्योपरि क्षिप्रं ब्रूहितयोर्बिलात् कतिमितै साम्येन गत्योर्युति.
This is a mathematical problem where one has to deal with not one but two right-angled triangles with a common altitude. The book Leelavati contains innumerable such examples that illustrate not just Bhaskara's mastery over mathematics, but his sublime poetic sense as well. A particularly tantalizing example is a question that cannot be solved except through the formulas on permutation.
पाशाङ्कुशाहिडमरूककपालशूलै खट्वाङ्गशक्ति शरचापयुतैर्भवन्ति अन्योन्यहस्तकलितैकतिमूर्तिभेदा शम्भोर्हरेरिवद्गदारि सरोजशङ्खै.
Another great work of Bhaskaracharya is Bijaganita, the book on algebra. The text's name is derived from the notion that algebra is the bija, the seed of all mathematics. In Bijaganita, Bhaskara elaborates on a method for finding solutions for Pell's equation, a proof wrongly attributed to John Pell, a 17th century English scholar, who only referred to the equation in one of his texts. This form of equation was known in India much earlier under the name Varga Prakriti, or equation of the multiplied square. Bhaskara developed a Chakravala, or cyclic method of solution, which required only a few easy steps to arrive at the solution. In his quintessential style, Bhaskara makes another creative stroke in Bijaganita to describe the difficult concept of infinity. through a philosophical metaphor, Bhaskaracharya explains.
अस्मिन् विकार खहरे नराशौ अपि प्रविष्टेष्वपि निःसृतेषु बहुष्वपि स्यात् लयसृष्टिकाले आनन्देच्युते भूतगणेषु यद्वत्.
Siddhanta Shiromani, the third great text written by Bhaskaracharya, is largely the application of mathematics to astronomy.
The Siddhanta Shiromani is the canonical, or one of the canonical forms, instances of the type of astronomical text called a Siddhanta. And that was the theoretical treatise par excellence that included in its Ganita, or calculation chapter, rules for computing everything you would want to know about the positions of the planets, the stars, the sun and moon at any given time, any information for calendars, any information you would collect for astrology, and then the text also included the Gola chapter, which is the work on the spherical geometry and the cosmology that's implied in the models of the universe that are being used to make the calculation.
A remarkable verse in the Bhuvana Kosha chapter of Goladhyaya informs us that Bhaskara, like his predecessors Brahmagupta and Bhaskara, was aware of the concept of gravitational force 600 years before Isaac Newton.
आकृष्टशक्तिश्च महीतया यत् खस्थं गुरुं स्वाभिमुखं स्वशक्त्या आकृष्यते तत्पततीव भाति समे समन्तात् क्व पतत्वियं खे.
Lilavati was translated into Persian during Akbar's time by his court historian and scholar Abu al-Faiz. Bijaganita was translated into Persian during Jahangir's period by Abdul Rashdi. Even before Akbar, and as early as the 12th century, a number of important Arabic works based on translations of Indian texts on mathematics and astronomy came out. Ultimately, a few Latin translations of these Indo-Arabic works travelled into wider Europe and perhaps aided the West towards a period of enlightenment, the European Renaissance.
In 12th century, Western world had just started a translation industry from Arabic to Latin, and all scientific treatises like Euclid was translated first by Adelaide of Bath in 12th century. Euclid is the very basis of mathematics in the Western mathematical field. So whether it is Euclid or any philosophical treatises, they were translated into Latin from Arabic in the 12th and 13th century. So it is when Bhaskaracharya was describing, innovating, developing mathematical theories based on his predecessors like Brahmagupta and many other further. Western world was just learning from Arabic and Persian text, mathematical and many other new ideas, which ultimately culminated into Renaissance. And we know that Renaissance really made huge contributions from 15th century onwards. That's about 300 years after Bhaskaracharya.
The life of Bhaskaracharya helps us recall the vast tradition of learning that shaped the glorious history of India. This was a period that also marked achievements in science and politics, philosophy, literature, drama, art and architecture. All achievements whose depth we are yet to fully fathom.